It's no longer March, but it is still mad. Baseball season is back, and Torpedo bats are in. This is the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. My name is Scott.
My name is Charlie.
I don't think that's right.
It's April Fool's, baby. My name's Deeb.
Welcome back to the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. Watch some college football, have a couple beers, couple bourbons.
Nah, he's the GOAT. There's no debating that. Will not be nearly as good as the hype. Yo. We're playing jokes tonight. We're playing jokes tonight. Episode 17, recording on April Fool's. Scott, what's going on, man?
Well, there's nothing foolish about watching the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. So for those of you who are out there, welcome to the show. Deeb, we're all good, man. It's been a rough week, to be honest with you. I know we usually catch up a little bit at the beginning of these shows. So
yeah,
just to kind of be fully honest, and you might know this because my wife's actually at your house right now, which is kind of crazy. But we had a sick house this past week. Parker's been sick, and it was his first time ever being sick. So that was a pretty big challenge for us. And then Raven got sick for the weekend. She's feeling better now, thankfully. I started not feeling good on Saturday night. So we just kind of all cascaded. Yeah. Parker seems to be back to normal today for the first time in like 8 days. So thank the Lord for that, because having a sick baby is tough. And when you're sick, trying to take care of a sick baby, it is exhausting. So shout out to support systems. Shout out to my wife. And I know she just traveled for work, which is why she's at your house. Yeah. So, tell me what's going on with you guys, though.
It was kind of funny. You're like, my wife, she's at your house. I was like, you got to give a little bit of context, right? She's here for work. She's friends with my wife. So, yes, we're happy to see her. You know, we wish all of you could come, but we'll take half of the 1/3, I guess, of the family if we can for the week. So everything's been going fairly well, I would say. Nashville I thought was a good trip, so I was looking forward to that. Now that's over with, but it was great to see you and catch up. So I thought it was fun. You know, obviously we got a different style of episode last week where we were in person and we got to do a tasting. So I'm going to miss that. You know, I know that was a cool experience. We'll have to try to do that in the future again, because I thought that was really a fun thing to do as well.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I had a really great time, and I know it was great to catch up with you. So I think that was we got two birds with one stone, as they say.
Hell yeah! Well, it sounds like the weather is still cold there. Raven said it was like 68 degrees when she left here, and she left here at like 4 a.m, and so I think she said it was in the 30s there yesterday.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, actually, we had a really bad storm Sunday come through, and luckily we had no issues, but it's supposed to happen again tomorrow, and they're like calling for like tornadoes and stuff. So I was like, oh no, man, here we go again. But, again, hoping nothing happens. Hopefully it's just a little windy and some rain, but we'll get through it. But other than that, I've been trying to get more involved. I know you would know this, but with the football coaching. So they're actually going on spring break after tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the last to lift, and then they have like a week and a half off. So take a little bit of time off. And then after that, here comes summer.
Yeah, summers are crazy for high school football. I know, at least when I went through it, it really is a year-round sport for preparation. And then when you hit summer camp and 2-a-days, I mean, it takes up a lot of time. Are you going to be involved with all of that?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to kind of like still gauge, right? So like right now we're just doing morning lifting. I think they want me to be involved on the defensive side from what the coach has been saying. So we're just going to see how it goes. I'm still fairly new to coaching football. So I know about the sport, know some of the terms, technical stuff that played football, but I think coaching is obviously different from playing. So you got to kind of learn as well as you're teaching people.
Yeah. Yeah, and learning how to teach a younger generation, because they're different than you and I were. Yep. We just got the shit beat out of us all the time if we messed up. And I don't think that's really how it goes anymore.
Not so much. Yeah, I would say you can still be aggressive, but you have to do it in certain ways. So
yeah. Well, cool, man. I mean, that sounds exciting. That's something that I would like to do in my future.
Yeah,
I do feel like I have a pretty good IQ for football, and I probably would really enjoy coaching, but maybe when Parker grows up, we'll see if he plays. I think Raven's hoping that he plays like soccer or something instead, but we'll see what happens.
The real football, right?
Yeah, well, the worldwide football.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Well, let's jump in, man. Let's talk about socials really quickly before we get started here. There's plenty of ways to see our content in addition to watching our full length episodes. Why don't you tell everybody kind of how to find us?
Yeah, so very simple, singlebarrelsports.com. We're on all sorts of platforms. We post clips. We like to tweet stuff. So, go on any of those that you're on. We would love to interact with you there if you'd like, or if you like to just follow along with us. If you're on or watching, obviously YouTube and Spotify are where the full episodes are at. We do actually have a goal we want to share with you all for YouTube if you're on there. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers, so we're just above 100. So that was a sweet milestone that we reached pretty early on. So that's actually really cool. But if you could help us get to that goal of 200, hit that subscribe button. It's free. We would appreciate it, and you'll get updates from us. And then I do want to show this real quick because this is something that I did not know. If you listen on Spotify, or you use Spotify, there's actually a button. I'll show you. Here's our page where if you hit like the three dots, and if you're on the phone, you'll see this too. There's a thing where you can hit rate show, and you can give us anything out of 1 to 5 stars. So I just thought that was really cool. It's a way to show us, how if you enjoy the show, if you want to give us the 5-star, we'd appreciate that. But something that you can do again just to help out and help us with growth. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that we're very interactive on each of those socials. We like to reply back when we do get comments or feedback from anybody. So if we haven't earned the 5 and there's some feedback that will allow us to get that 5 from you, let us know what we're missing. And we are adaptable. This is still a relatively new podcast. We've been doing this for now 17 weeks, which seems like a long time, but a lot of these things they go on for years. And so we're really still in our infancy when you look at it like that. And we're definitely open to change to make this a more interactive and exciting podcast to listen to.
Yeah, love reading all the comments, whether it's funny, whether it's hate, whether it's back and forth. That's something that I enjoy, and I definitely like interacting with people. But you ready to talk about some sports?
Let's dive on in, man. What do you got?
All right, we're going to do the term of the week. So this is a segment that was actually suggested by a listener, so we appreciate that. And this week we have a basketball related term. Did you want to go over the term of the week for this week?
I'm gonna let you do it this week. I think I took the reins last week, so I'll let you go and I can follow if there's any gaps.
Yeah, so this is related to basketball, and the term is triple double. So it's one that you will hear pretty often if you watch like Sports Center, ESPN, or maybe even sometimes in a game. But basically, what it means is if a player has 10 or more of 3 stats. So the ones that you'll usually see would be points, rebounds, and assists are going to be the most common. And so that just means that they had a really good game, right? So they had 10, they could have like 10 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds in theory. So as long as they had above 10 in all 3 of certain category, that's what's called a triple double. And so that would mean that they had a hell of a game. Let's put it that way for a single player. So I know we talked a little bit about Jokic, right? The Joker. He's been kind of on a roll with this. I know there's a lot of also other famous players like LeBron, Jordan, Kobe, a lot of great players out there who almost like averaged or, would have triple doubles pretty often in their careers. I think like Russell Westbrook was kind of crazy with this too back in the day when he was in his prime.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there a season where I don't know if he ended up getting it, but it was like looking like he was going to have a triple double average for the whole season that one year.
Yeah.
That's insane. But it's weird because you can kind of pad these stats a little bit too.
Yeah.
But on a normal day, a triple double means you had a great game. It means you were very well rounded, and the double really just means double digits for the stats, right? So like you said, it can be above 10, it could be 40. Joker had that recently where he had a huge game like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a term that I think is thrown out there a lot, but some casual sports fans may not understand it. If you're not into basketball, you may not know it. So that's our term of the week.
Yep. And if you ever hear double double, same thing, but just only 2 stats instead of 3. It's less commonly talked about, but you will hear it from time to time watching basketball.
Yeah, and I feel like that one's also way more common. Like people get double doubles a lot more often.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to move into the weekly recap, which is going to really be our main, I think, segment for the week because we have multiple things in multiple sports to talk about from the past week or almost week and a half. But let's first start out with our sports picks, right? So we're going to kind of revisit where we're at here. So as some of you may know, we have a segment at the end called the single barrel picks, where we will pick sports, like who's going to win. And for a while, we were just focusing on football. So both of us had really good, I think, picks overall from where we started with football this year. I thought, we did a great job overall. Even we were doing like money lines and, whatever the spread. But now more recently, since football's been over, we've been doing like a multitude of sports. So we'll pick college basketball, UFC, NHL, we'll kind of pick and choose. So tell us about where we're at right now with our overall, Scott.
Yeah, well, I will say when we started doing this kind of medley of picking, it looked a little gloomy for us both. I think we were both kind of losing money if we would have been actually making all of those bets.
Yeah.
I've had a surge lately. My overall record since we stopped doing football and moved on to a kind of a combination of sports is now up to 14, 9, and 1 push. So that's actually pretty good. I'd be up money. Pretty happy with that. We've had a lot of opposite picks, so it makes sense that our records are kind of opposite. And so your record is 9, 14, and 1.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, not quite as hot. We were both red hot in the football, but we're not doing quite as good with kind of combining sports like basketball and hockey and college basketball and UFC. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm up 5 wins on you, but a lot can change in a week. So who knows what this looks like in a week from now.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say we do sometimes try to pick against each other just to make it a little more fun and entertaining. But I'm gonna keep an eye on this moving forward. Maybe it's not so much of a strategy to go against each other every week or every single time.
I think there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
And when your gut feels very strongly, I've always said this: when your gut feels very strongly, you got to follow it. Because if you lose, at least you lost like with what you believed in, and you didn't lose just chasing some random cause because it's opposite. We always have one bet every week where we force each other to be on opposite ends of the bet. So we'll always have some difference.
Yep, for sure. So we're going to start with March Madness because that's the big story. And I know we've kind of covered this over the last few weeks. So we're almost to the end. We did do a bracket challenge. And so this was a free ESPN bracket where we invited people to join. We had 81 people join, which is honestly crazy to think about that many people somehow saw this and, decided to join. We're just going to show you real quick where people are at right now. So here's our bracket, and I'm tied for 20th. I'm not doing that
you're doing
great.
better than I am.
But, I think I got 2 of the 4 of the final 4, maybe. I'll have to double check. But this is just the top individuals right now who are right now probably most likely to win. And so just kind of wanted to show and congratulate these people on, picking a hell of a bracket so far.
Yeah, great job there. I'm in 64th place. So yeah, very, very poor. The only people I have left that I chose were Duke and Florida. So I'm definitely not going to do much better than what I'm already at. But I do have Florida winning it all. And the winner can bump you up some spaces, but I will not be winning. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, we'll go over who's in the final 4 coming up. But let's first talk about round 3, the Sweet 16. That's kind of where we left off. So I know we covered round 2, but you want to just go through these games maybe, and we can comment here and there if we noticed that something interesting happened.
Yeah, well, it was an up and down season for Michigan. They were relatively good this year, but they had a history of kind of losing in some of the bigger games, and they did lose to Auburn, which was not a huge surprise. So Auburn took out Michigan. Michigan State won a close game over Ole Miss, and this again is in the round of 16. Duke had a monster game against Arizona, but that was a super high-scoring game for both teams, with Duke putting up 100.
Yeah.
Alabama had a game where they put up so many three-pointers. I think it broke a record for three-pointers in a tournament game, and they scored 113 points, which is crazy for college basketball.
Yeah, that game, I was like, I legit, after that game, I was like, is Alabama the secret team here that's going to come? I mean, I know they're ranked high, but I was like, oh my gosh, they're like really playing well.
Yeah, it was a big momentum game for them. They won by 25 that game. Florida took down Maryland in a game where Florida didn't look super great in the first half, but then finished very strong. You have Texas Tech barely beating Arkansas, who I had said in the last week's episode might be some sort of a Cinderella team this year. But nope, they went down. They lost by 2 to Texas Tech.
I think that was also a tough matchup for them. I think if
Mhm.
they would have drew somebody else, maybe Arkansas would still be in or would have made it to the Elite Eight at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were playing good basketball, and they just came up a little bit short there. And speaking of coming up a little bit short, Houston, who was your favorite team to win the whole bracket, they did win, but they only beat Purdue by 2. So Purdue almost edged out Houston, which would have been a pretty big upset, I think. Any
Yeah,
thoughts on that? I know you have them winning. So what were your thoughts watching that game?
I think that one, if I'm not mistaken, that one came down to the last play, and it was kind of like a crazy finish. I don't recall exactly if it was like someone turned it over, but I think it might have been a buzzer beater of how they won. I'll have to double check that, but it was a very close game, and I was like, "Oh no, here goes the true bracket buster for me." But they pulled it out.
Yeah, yep, very close one there. And then Tennessee took down Kentucky. And again, a game where the higher ranked team won.
Yeah,
Um,
Tennessee looked good. I'll
yeah,
be honest; they were looking. I thought they were also another one like Alabama, where I was like, "Uh-oh, this they're looking really really good." Going through this bracket.
absolutely. Yep. So that rounded out our Sweet 16, which, my bracket was already fairly busted at that point. Now, in this round, nothing crazy happened that really hurt my bracket, except that the teams that I had going to the Elite Eight, several of them had already been beaten, like Clemson, for example.
Yeah.
So my bracket is tarnished. And like I said, at this point, I only have 2 teams even left. But let's go to round 4, the Elite Eight, and see what happened at the end of the weekend. You want to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, so I think in a more highly anticipated matchup, Auburn and Michigan State, again, both have looked great. I thought Michigan State also had a really good chance based on how they were playing, but they came up short and Auburn did beat them 70-64. So that one was a tight matchup. Alabama went down to Duke 85-65. So kind of surprising, that Alabama that we saw really going crazy the round before with the 3 pointers was kind of shut down by Duke. But I think it
Yeah, I
also
mean,
just shows how good Duke is.
I think so. I think it's a showcase that Duke has been dominant pretty much the whole tournament, and Alabama scored 48 fewer points than they did the round before that. So, yeah, pretty big deal.
Yep. And then we also had Florida take down Texas Tech in another very close game. Texas Tech was actually winning at the end of this game. So they were up with, I think it was like 2 or something minutes left, and they honestly just blew it at the end, and Florida ended up winning. So Texas Tech looked really good too, I have to say.
Mhm,
And I also didn't know that Florida has a 7'9" freshman on their bench,
mhm.
which
And
I
I
was
think,
like, wait, what?
and I might be wrong about this, but I think that he hadn't played prior to the tournament. I think they were holding on to him. I don't know the story behind that, but I think he just recently started playing when the tournament started.
Yep.
And he has a bright future. Obviously, he's 7'9". That gives you quite a big advantage in basketball.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to follow that career moving forward.
Well, if he ends up being reasonable and going to the NBA, it can be like him versus Wemby.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Just a matchup of the talls.
Man, I still feel for Wemby, man. He was having such a hell of a year.
Yeah. And then the last game, Houston took down Tennessee, actually kind of almost in a more of a blowout, 69-50. So that one was also pretty surprising to see number one beat number, I think there were 2 or 3 by almost 20 points.
Yep, I think they were a 2 seed, and it's just one of those things again where a team looked really hot, and you thought maybe they have a chance, and here we are. We're going into the Final Four, and it's kind of disappointing. And I'd like to talk about this for a minute, but in the next round we've got Auburn versus Florida and Duke versus Houston,
Yeah.
and basically in what is a battle of all of the number 1 seeds. People love March Madness. The madness in it is that anything could happen and upsets happen. Here we are coming up in the round of 4, and it's all of the top seeded teams playing against each other. Really, I know it's very common for number 1 seeds to make it this late, but it's kind of uncommon usually for all 4 teams to be a number 1 seed. And just kind of curious, what are your thoughts? And I'm curious to hear about what everyone thinks about this. What are your thoughts about having a March Madness tournament where all of the Final Four teams are number 1 seeds? Does that take
Yeah.
away from the spirit of the tournament at all? Or does it just mean that the rankings were really spot on this year? What do you think about that, Deeb?
I do think it shows that the initial rankings were spot on, right? So like this year it was a little bit more difficult to determine like who was going to be maybe the emerging team going in, right? We had like a couple teams out there. We were like, yeah, they look good, but I mean, they lost. It's not like they were like, I think all these number ones were all strong teams during the regular season. But I think overall, it doesn't surprise me that all four made it just based on how they are playing and have been playing. But yeah, I would have expected to see like a number 2, maybe a number 5 in here. Like there's usually at least one or two that will be in the final four. So either we're going to get some really colossal matchups between all these number ones where these are really the four best teams and they're going to be really good final four matchups. Or I don't know, maybe it's like the what if, like what if another team that was lower ranked would have made it? Could they have pulled it off or would they have just gotten crushed when it came to the final?
Yeah, well, and what I can say is when this does happen and you have all of the top seeds playing, you just really hope that it's truly the best four teams playing at the best time of the year to just have some very competitive basketball and have a great championship game. One thing I find interesting about this, and especially the way that the brackets have aligned themselves here, is that we talked a lot about how many SEC teams were going to be in the tournament this year. And here we are in the Final Four with two of them.
Yeah.
And the way things have aligned, we're guaranteed to have an SEC team in the finals this year. And so it's kind of an interesting thing to think about with all those teams. Here they are still making out 50% of the remaining teams. And I think that's a bit of a shift. Most people don't historically think about the SEC as being a dominant basketball conference. But here we are, and they look good. Both of those teams look good. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, even if you look at the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16, I mean, those do look different from past years. The teams that, like, there are some teams like Duke, maybe Michigan State, that or you would see, or even Houston. But to see like Auburn, Alabama, Texas Tech, Tennessee in there,
Arkansas, yes,
yeah,
all these crazy
Arkansas,
teams.
yep, that I think that was more uncommon than what we've seen in the past few years. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is the rise of NIL, SEC. I don't know. We'll have to see what
Well,
happens.
and that brings up another question that I want to talk about here. And this is a question that my friend Zach brought up in a group chat that I'm in. So shout out Zach. He's been a guest on this. But my question is, has the NIL ruined March Madness? Does all of the money going to specific schools ruin the state or the spirit of the tournament and the quality of the upset? Would Steph Curry have played at Davidson if there was NIL dollars recruiting him to an SEC school? And then my buddy Jordan, who also was on the show, he chimed in with a question and likened it to, what would the NBA look like without a salary cap? Because that's kind of what you can argue we're seeing in college basketball. So those are two big questions that I would love to kind of throw out into the world and see what people have to say. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, do you think NIL is ruining the spirit of March Madness?
I don't know if it's ruining it. I think it's just creating maybe more stability in some of the programs that are more well known, like in football. You know what I'm saying? So, like
Mm-hmm.
the programs that are already known in more popular sports like football they're already popular in that sport, and so they're maybe even using that to their advantage now to become better at sports like basketball. Maybe I don't know. It's just happening in other sports. I'd be kind of curious too. Like, are there track and field teams good in SEC suddenly? So I don't know that it's ruining it. I think it's just changing things. It's changing the dynamic. So I think we still need a few more years to figure out. Like I think they're gonna start to also realize limits and stuff like that that probably need to be put. And I know there's
Mm-hmm.
probably NAL cap and stuff like that that's coming down the road too.
Yeah, and again, that likens it more to how the NBA is structured. And can
Yeah,
you imagine the NBA with no salary cap? I mean, you would have the All-Star team in one team,
yeah,
like it would just point blank. When everything is in all-time greats is measured so heavily on championships, why wouldn't these guys all pool to one team and play together to win championships, even if it kind of ruins the spirit of competition for the rest of the league?
yeah.
I think there's arguments to be made about that, and I think there certainly is something to be monitored and watched here, and probably some changes down the road. But we're looking at really kind of the first iteration of this, so it's very early to start making bold claims like that, I think.
Yep, definitely. We'll move on to PGA, so golf. This past weekend, we had the 2025 Houston Open, which was in Memorial Park in Houston, Texas. So, an interesting, I think it was actually a reasonable field. I'd call it like a middle to maybe above average field here. So we actually had Min Woo Lee, who won the event. He finished minus 20 and shot a 67 on the final day. Some fun facts about this: he earned $1.7 million for coming in first and a bunch of FedEx Cup points. It's actually his first PGA Tour victory. He's a fairly newer player. He's from Australia, but I think he's Australian, but he's also like his heritage is Asian. So when you hear him talk, he has that Australian accent. I want to show a clip on the very last hole when he putt in for the win. Let me pull this up for you. So
And he looks pretty young too, right? I mean, just from watching some of this, he seemed like a very young guy.
he is, yeah, he's on the younger end. And actually, another fun fact: his sister, I think her name is Min Ji Lee. She plays on the women's the LPGA tour, so she's also pretty good. But so in golf, there's this thing that's called aim point, where people basically use their feet to help determine, when you're going to like putt the ball, what the slope is and where you want to aim. And so he had this super troll thing where he did it like with just literally this tap in and was kind of like joking around about it. And so everyone was, you can see in the background laughing and stuff. And then he just comes up and puts it in for the win. So I want to say congrats to this guy. I mean, honestly, he's somebody that has emerged over the past few years, and he's pretty exciting to watch. If you look him up on social media, you'll see he has a really good following, and he does some pretty fun stuff out on the course. So runners up, Scotty Scheffler and Gary Woodland tied for second. So this is kind of Scotty's home course, and he's from the Texas, the state of Texas. I don't know if he's from Houston, he might be from Dallas, but he's from Texas. One other thing I want to mention for those of you who are not familiar or who've never heard Gary Woodland's name, he's an older golfer. So I don't remember his exact age, but he's definitely like up there in age compared to the other, I guess, the field. He actually had brain cancer, and it forced him to stop playing. And so this was his best performance because he had to undergo surgery in 2023. So it's kind of cool to see him back and playing well, because he used to be pretty good. And so he's been kind of on the rise. The last thing I'll mention about the golf outing is that Rory, as some of you know, we've talked about, finished tied for fifth. So he's still playing pretty hot. He put his career earnings by getting fifth past $100 million. And he's actually the only other player other than Tiger Woods who have made $100 million plus playing golf, which is a lot of money to play golf.
That's insane, dude. I just want to go back to the fact that this guy won $1.7 million for playing a good round of golf, which was a great round of golf. But can you imagine if you put like one really good week of work in at your job and got rewarded $1.7 million? Like, it's kind of crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a big spectator sport. It's a big event. It's entertainment. It brings in a lot of money, but it's just kind of wild. And I don't even think this is one of the bigger events, right? I'm sure they make more money than this at some of the larger events like the Masters coming up.
Yeah. So this was not a signature and an elevated event, and that's where the purses are higher. So this is kind of like a quote unquote more normal payout of what they would get if they won. So yeah, to be able to make that much money, to have one good week at work, man, that would be the dream. This coming weekend is the Valero Texas Open. It's kind of a below midfield, but it's the lead up to the Masters. So that's kind of the important part, is we're getting closer to the Masters, and it sounds like we're going to maybe do a Masters special episode next week.
Yeah, I think we've got a special guest lined up who's going to come on here. Very big fan of golf, very kind of identifies his life with golf. And I know obviously you're very into golf as well, and probably going to play a little bit more of a moderator role next week while we kind of prep and talk about the upcoming Masters event, which is on a lot of people's top 5 sporting events for the whole year, according to our recent social media posts. So should be a good episode.
Yeah, looking forward to that, and to hearing from a guest who is actually going to the Masters, right? You said he was actually going this year?
Yep. He's going to record with us early in the week, and he's going to actually go to the event then later on in the week.
Yeah, that's really cool. Moving on, we're going to do a little bit of NHL. You want to talk about this one?
I will, yeah. So the first thing we've been hitting on a lot recently, and it's becoming more and more relevant each week, But I've talked a lot about the Blues season up until the break for the Four Nations tournament. They kind of were a very 500 team. They would win a game, lose a game, win 2 games, lose 2 games. And this is just something that SportsCenter has posted here, and this is actually outdated, but they are the hottest team in the NHL since the Four Nations tournament ended. They actually have won now 9 games in a row. And they have the best record since that tournament ended with 9 straight wins. And they, if the season had ended today, would be in the playoffs after having a very mediocre season. And it's looking like, with only, I think, six or 7 games left, it's looking very plausible that my St. Louis Blues will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, and looking very reminiscent of 2019, where they came from last place to making the playoffs and then winning the Stanley Cup. So we can only hope when a team gets hot at the right time of the year, anything can happen. And I've talked about this before. They have great goaltending in the playoffs. People can say what they want about Jordan Binnington. He's kind of a loose cannon. But in the playoffs, when the pressure is on, that man is a beast. And he showed that again in the Four Nations tournament when he led Canada to winning the tournament. So very exciting. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about a team like that? It's got to be exciting even for people who aren't fans to see kind of an underdog story kind of unraveling right here at the end of the year. What are your thoughts just kind of tracking along, especially as much as I talk about the Blues?
Yeah, I mean, based on how some of the, I guess, discussions that we have had earlier, I didn't think they were going to have a good season at all. Like I know you were kind of, talking about maybe they're rebuilding, they've moved some people, there's some trades and stuff like that that have happened over the past few years. So
Mm-hmm.
to see them coming out at the end of the year is a really good sign. And I know that means a lot, according to what you've told me, in the playoffs, because when you get hot during the playoffs in hockey, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a team sport. And it feels like when a team is hot that they all play just a little harder for each other. And I think that is exemplified more in hockey than really in any other sport that I've ever watched. So that's why I think watching the NHL playoffs, if you don't watch hockey during the regular season, watch the playoffs. It is an entirely different kind of sport and competitive element. But I will jump off of my Blues soapbox. There's another story that we've been tracking a lot recently.
Yeah.
And that is Alexander Ovechkin is closing in on the all-time goal-scoring record following Wayne Gretzky. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but Ovechkin is in his 20th season. Wayne Gretzky also played 20 seasons, so fairly similar in number of seasons played. But one of the kind of crazy things about this stat is that the pads on the goalies are way bigger now than they were when Wayne Gretzky played. So it's harder to score goals now. Now, that doesn't take away from Wayne Gretzky. It's literally like the greatest of all time. There's no debating. Some of the stuff he did even back then was far above what anyone else did in the same circumstances. But I bring that up to say that this is a record that a lot of people thought would never be broken. And Ovechkin tonight, while we were recording, scored another goal.
Oh.
So he's 3 goals away from tying now, 4 goals away from breaking the record. I don't recall how many games they have left, but I want to say it's like 7 games left maybe. And he needs 4 goals to break it, 3 to tie it. So that's going to be really fun to kind of watch over the next 2 weeks here and kind of see if he can break it now. I think that if he doesn't, he'll probably return. I would imagine he's going to return and play again next year. So he should break this record, but it would be really cool to see him do it this year.
And I thought I saw something on social media where he was like at a bar last night in Boston or something. That I'll have to see if I can find the clip. Maybe we can repost it on X. But I swear I saw a clip of him like at a bar somewhere, just like partying with people.
That, you know what, that would be a very Russian thing to do. He probably drinks vodka before all of his games. Who knows?
You gotta,
he's one of the greatest.
Get him on the bourbon.
Yeah, we'll pour him something nice. We'll get him something good. But yeah, kind of some crazy fun storylines coming down at the end of the season here in the NHL. And just kind of going back to the Blues, as hot as they have been, the 2 teams that they're kind of competing with for that last wildcard spot have been pretty damn hot as well. So we're going to have an exciting finish here. I wish that those teams would lose a little bit, but I'm sure they're thinking that about the Blues too, who have won 9 in a row and are currently tied right now. They're playing tonight, so it could be 10 in a row by the end of this episode.
Wow, that's cool. Well, hopefully they keep on the streak and get into the playoffs, and hopefully Ovechkin also breaks the record before the end of the year. That'd be really cool to see both those things.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to see it.
We have one thing from the NBA. which I do have to give a shout out to our friends Nick and Tim, because they actually brought this up in a group chat. And I wasn't aware of this, but the Detroit Pistons played the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if you know anything about the Pistons, back in the day, they had a very significant event that I think it was versus the LA Lakers, and they had basically a brawl that happened at their home court. I think this was like I want to say it was like 2000. It was in the early 2000s, I believe, when they were like pretty good. I remember like Ron Artest, I believe, was out there, and like people went into the stands and like were like punching fans, and so it was crazy. But essentially, they had a fight breakout at this game, and so I wanted to show the clip of what happened. So we're gonna look at two different angles. I'll show you the full angle here, kind of the full play, so you have some context. So these are the players: Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Ron Holland, Isaiah Stewart, Marcus Sasser, and then apparently the coaches, or the coach and assistant coach, were also ejected. But this is crazy. Let's just watch a clip here of how this all.
Yeah, I have not actually even digested this whole thing yet.
Yeah, so like
I saw the start of it.
They start talking trash, pointing fingers, pushing each other, and then it just like escalates.
Dang.
And look, the cameraman,
camera guy gets smashed. Oh, damn.
Yep. And so
that's a lot of bodies.
They just started like, you can't. I mean, you can kind of see it here.
Oh, that guy's getting smuggled by a fan. Did you see that?
Yeah, the fans are just like, what the? Like they're like disgusted. There's like a little kid in there.
That's when Ron Artest went in the crowd and started beating the fans in the other fight, right?
Yeah, that
Meta
man's
World
laughing.
Beast.
Everyone's got their phones out.
Oh yeah, it's 2025, bro. Of course, it's the initial reaction.
And so speaking of that, so somebody captured a different angle from the crowd, and so I just wanted to show this real quick, because this you can kind of see a little bit more from the crowd view what they saw. So it's a little grainy, but this is what it looked like.
Oh, dang, that guy just got knocked into the second row.
Yep. So, I mean, it wasn't like, they weren't like full swinging on each other, because obviously they're getting like held back. But I mean, they're like laying on fans. I mean, like, look, the guy like under there is getting crushed. So kind of an interesting one, and wanted to pose the question because I thought this was kind of an interesting concept. Do you, as a viewer, or maybe a non-viewer, if you watch NBA or you don't, would allowing fights similar to how they do in hockey during basketball games make NBA basketball more popular? So curious to hear what people have to say about that. And Scott, you can share your thoughts if you'd like.
More popular, maybe. Obviously, it generates a lot of buzz anytime there's a fight, and I think fans get excited and rally around teams when that happens, which is a big reason for why it happens in hockey. My biggest concern with this would be that on hockey, they're on ice skates trying to punch each other, so they're not getting. It's not like boxing style punches that are landing.
Yeah.
When you got basketball shoots on and you're on a wood court, you can get a lot more leverage and hip torque. You can hit each other a lot harder with a lot more balance.
Yeah.
So I think it would become much more violent, and there would be more consequences, maybe more concussion, some CTE down the road. I think there needs to be ways to vent out some frustration sometimes, if it's mutually consensual in sports, to keep that competitive spirit going and just kind of let out some of that frustration. But I don't think we should have fistfights on a basketball court. As much as I do think it would probably make the sport more popular, I think it would make it too violent, and we don't want our kids growing up and doing that shit either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, there's, other sports like UFC, etc., where you can actually fight people. So technically, but I mean, so just an interesting thought, right? Like, how would the game look if you could just, in theory, like pull up and just start punching people, and then you'd have to get like ejected or whatever? Like, if it was like I don't want to say acceptable, but more like of a common thing, because you don't really see it that often. Like, people don't get into full-on fights in basketball. It's more like pushing and shoving.
I agree. Yeah, I would love to hear what everyone has to say, but I think that's a slippery slope.
Yep. So we have one last thing real quick from baseball, which I know we have not covered, but that's actually kickstarting now. So we'll probably start to talk a little bit about that. But Do you want to talk a little bit about what this is? I can pull it up on the screen here, and I know we have a question for people.
Yeah, there's a bit of a craze going on in New York, and the Yankees in particular here. They have a newly styled bat, baseball bat that they're using, and it technically is within the rules of what you have to have, like the size of a baseball bat. And what you have on the screen here describes it. It can't be more than 2.61 inches in diameter at the thickest part, and it can't be more than 42 inches long. And they are following those rules. But what's weird is the thickest part of the bat is in the spot where the ball usually makes contact. And that's kind of a new strategy here. And the Yankees are hitting a lot of home runs. The team is hitting a lot of home runs using these bats. Aaron Judge in particular is hitting a lot of home runs. I saw a stat this morning that he was on pace for like 300 plus home runs this season if he keeps hitting them at the rate he is. So it's very controversial, right? Because they're, I think, the only team that's using this style of bat right now.
Wait,
And
how many home runs
he's on pace to hit 300
in one season?
Yeah, he's been hitting more than one per game.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's like crazy. Like, I know to start out the season, in his first 7 at bats, he had 4 home runs. It's like more than half of his plate appearances were home runs to start the year.
I wonder what the what is the I'm going to look this up real quick. What is the home run record for like a single season?
I think it's 82.
Because is it still like Barry Bonds?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm way off. 73.
Okay.
Yeah, it was back when Barry Bonds was on steroids.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't really heard too much about it since then.
Yeah, well, Aaron Judge had a hell of a year last year and the year before, and was hitting a lot of home runs to potentially maybe break some of these records, but
yeah,
he didn't. He might this year. I mean, this is crazy. He hit 62 home runs a couple of years ago, which is, if you think about it, without the steroid kind of era, that's a lot. All these other guys were using steroids when they hit as many as they did.
Yeah, Mark McGwire, Sammy
Sosa. Yeah, exactly. So Aaron Judge is kind of like that dude when it comes to home runs, but this new style bat has him hitting them even more regularly.
So he would hit, you said 300 in 1 year?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What?
I want to say they play 162 games, and the math came out to where it was like a little bit over 300 home runs for the year based upon how he's been hitting home runs so far.
Dude, that would be insane.
Take it with a grain of salt, right? Because baseball's only been out for like 5 days.
Right. Yeah. I guess
the season started on Thursday, but still, he's hit that many already, and in almost a week. So it's controversy, right? There's a lot of talk about this new style bat.
Yeah.
Is this just a genius play by the Yankees, or is this kind of like skirting the rules to gain an unfavorable advantage?
Yeah,
they're not breaking the rule. Yeah. Do we have to get more specific about the rule? I know you and I don't like when things have to get more specific when it comes to rules.
Yeah,
but I mean, as a team, they're hitting way more than any other team in the league, and their best player for hitting home runs is hitting way more than anyone ever has historically to start a season. Yeah. So who knows? It's kind of a weird situation going on.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. Did you already ask the community question?
No. Go ahead.
So I guess, what are your thoughts on the torpedo bats? Will they become the new norm in baseball?
Me personally, I think if they're allowed, here's the thing. Even if the MLB comes out in a few weeks and they're like, you can't use these bats anymore, that's already like wins and stats that they can't take back that have already happened. And if they don't do that, and if a team's going up against the Yankees, they're already at a disadvantage if this bat is actually that much better than the old standard bat. So it's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to jump on board if you want to be able to compete, unless somebody comes in and says they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I will be curious to see if everyone adopts it, or if it's like, you can't do this.
I will say that the memes have been hilarious on the internet because they make it seem like the bat is like so much bigger than it actually is.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But it is a funny looking bat. I mean, when you look at what normal baseball bats look like, it does look different. So,
yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see what ends up happening. But we are now to the halftime pour, which
hell yeah,
is a fun way where we mix in some bourbon. Single barrel sports podcast here, and so We're going to pour and show you what we're sipping on tonight for bourbon, and we're going to talk about a question of the night. So you want to go first, Scott?
I will, and this is something I've had on the podcast many times now. But this is the Yellowstone toasted barrel, toasted finish here. And it's nearly empty. You can see there's just a little bit left in there. And I just thought it sounded delicious tonight. There's really no reason other than that. I just really wanted to drink it. So that's what we're doing tonight. And it's not the first time we've done it on the podcast, but it's just as tasty as ever.
Well, usually when they make a reappearance, it means they're that good, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or you have bottles that you don't want to open yet. So I get that too. I have this one I haven't drank too much on the pod, but it's a repeat. It is the Wild Turkey, and it is a private selection single barrel pick from the distillery that we got when we were there in Kentucky. And it is just very, very smooth. It is one of the better wild turkeys I think I've had in a long time.
Hell yeah, man.
And I picked it because it's a hell of a pour. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Wild Turkey's got some good stuff. We went there and met the man. We met the master distiller, the guy who created it. So
yeah, Jimmy Russell.
Cool, man. Well, cheers to you. Cheers to everyone who's listening along. And if you guys are sipping, hope you're sipping good.
All right. Question of the night. If you were stuck on an island from a freak accident, but you could choose to have one case of bourbon you would find in some floating debris in the water, what bottle would it be and why?
Ooh, I'm going to do something unexpected tonight. If I'm stuck on an island, I'm imagining being like hot and kind of dehydrated, which means I'm not going to want something that's like super harsh, super kind of that has that nice burn that I typically enjoy. So I would hope to find a case of Old Weller Antique kind of just floating by. I think that's a very tasty, almost a little bit sweeter bourbon. It's I almost liken it to being refreshing, and it's not quite as harsh. I think it's just an easy drinker. It's got great flavor, and if you've never had it for the price point, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, if you can find it.
Yep. Yeah, there's certain states that you're going to be much more likely to find that than others. So good luck. Old Weller Antique, it's got the red label. It's got a 107 on it, I think.
Yep.
Buy it if you see it.
That's one of the ones that helped me pick the name for my dog, was that exact bottle. I like that one. I'm going to go with the theme here. All right. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have you envision something with me.
I know where you're going here. I know where we're going.
So let's just say this freak accident that occurred was a boat crash, right? We're on a boat. We're out enjoying ourselves, maybe in the ocean, maybe in a river, wherever this island is. And on that boat, we had the Jefferson's Ocean barrels, which for those of you that don't know, those are bourbon barrels that are actually aged at sea. So they take the barrels and put them on boats, and they have them go around the world, just kind of on cargo ships. And that's how they age in the heat and all that stuff. So that's what I would want to have, because I feel like it would have the qualities of the ocean and the sea or wherever we were. And it would, kind of go along with the theme of we had it on the boat, it crashed, and we found it again. And we were
good answer, man. It's a good answer, and that's another one that's delicious. If you can find it, that's much easier to find. It's usually around $70, I think, when I see it, the aged at sea version, and it has a subtle salty taste to it that is actually very tasty. It's not overdone. So try it out if you've never had it. Another really good bourbon.
Sweet. All right, so we have a special segment tonight, trying something new. I know this was one that you and I had talked about, maybe a version of, but kind of came together here. So we have tiers lists. So what we're going to do is we've put together a tier ranking list, and we're going to share it with you on the page here. We're also going to share a link to this on our socials. So if you'd like, you can actually do your own ranking of the tiers and show us what you would rank these players, these athletes. So we'd love to see those. Just maybe do a screenshot and send it to us, or just, post it and tag us in it. But let's go ahead. I'm going to pull it up here. The theme of how we're ranking these players, Scott, is the game on the line. So where would you rank these players with the game on the line? What tier would you put them in in terms of S being the highest tier, and I think it's F maybe being the lowest tier.
Okay.
The only like parameter I'm going to set is we at least need to have one person in each tier, just to make sure that we're not, putting everybody in the same. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go back and forth and take turns picking these players. So, I'll pick one, you pick one, whatever. So let me pull it up here real quick.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
And you will also see that it is a range of very random players from very various sports. So, this is not limited to one sport. It ranges from anything from basketball to golf, and even tennis. So, the first one, which I'll leave for you, Scott, to kick this off, would be Michael Jordan. So where would you put him and why?
Yeah. I mean, you know how I feel about LeBron James, but everything I say about LeBron James is not to discredit Michael Jordan. So, with that being said, he's the GOAT of championships. So we're putting him in the S tier. With games on the line, we're going to put him right up at the top.
All right. I think that was hopefully a fairly easy one. I think maybe most people would agree with. So I have Caitlin Clark, which is a newer face to the WNBA, but certainly becoming, I think, one of the more well-known, or if not one of the most well-known players in that sport. Caitlin Clark is pretty solid. I mean, obviously, she's a amazing player. She is one of probably the best young WNBA players out there. Some are saying maybe she could be one of the greatest eventually. And she's a really good three-point shooter. So, I mean, do I want the ball in her hands at the end with the game on the line? I say yes, but I'm going to give her an A because I'm not sure she has made the rank of S just yet. Like, I would trust her with the ball, but I don't know that she belongs in that S tier just yet. So I'm going to rank her pretty high for where she's at, and I'm going to give her the A.
I would have done the same exact thing. And I think it's just she needs a little bit more time in her career. But she's certainly looking like an S tier caliber athlete in her very young career.
Yep.
Up next, I have the privilege of ranking Eli Manning, and I've talked about him before on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to sound kind of crazy, but he's got 2 Super Bowl wins, right? I mean, this is a guy who's won 2 Super Bowls. You would think he'd be the guy you want with the game on the line. But that's not the case. Because if it was the case, then he would be actually a successful quarterback in the regular season too, and he's not. So if there's anyone on this entire list that we have to put as an F, it's Eli Manning, and I'm putting him in the F category.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Now, I would probably rank him as a D if there was a D, but given the people we have here, he's the only choice for an F. So,
all right, that's fair. I would probably I can live with the F. I might put him in the C just because he has won a couple Super Bowls. But
okay, well,
other than that, I'd okay the F.
I'll ask you later because I don't want to spoil anything. I'll ask you later who you would put in the F over Eli then in that case because we have to put someone there.
That's fair. All right, so next up we have, if you don't recognize this, Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch. I had to grab his mugshot because that's one of the most iconic photos of him. Really, I mean, crazy player at his prime. There's some controversy over the Super Bowl, where they didn't hand the ball off to him and they decided to pass. But I don't know. Do I want to hand the ball off to him with the game on the line? I would put him in the B tier. I feel like in his prime, he gets the job done. But I mean, it's tough to hand it off to a running back. I mean, he's a great player, but he could also get stuffed. So I'm going to put him in the B. I think he's capable. I just don't think he's S tier or A tier.
Yeah, I would almost argue that he could be a C tier. And the reason I say that is because they didn't give him the ball with the game on the line in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the coach, you think, would know him better than any fan would. We all thought he should have got the ball. But I also think that Marshawn Lynch, he is one hell of a player. He had a great career. I think he benefited from some major highlight plays that turned him into beast mode, that without those plays, he would not have been held in such of a high regard when it comes to running backs.
Yeah.
Not to hate on him. He is great. But yeah, I think a B is fair. I probably would put him at C, but I don't know. It's one of those tough ones.
Yep.
The next one here is going to be pretty tough too. We got Big Papi, David Ortiz. He's a guy that really beat the hell out of my Cardinals in a World Series. He was averaging like 700 And that whole playoffs, he was just hitting home runs and hits like every time he came to the bat.
Yep.
There's a lot of good players on here. I think I would put Big Papi as a B, but like as a better B than Marshawn Lynch. And that's hard. That's hard to say, but I think that I would put him to the left. I think the left is where the better one goes. I'd put him to the left of Lynch. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh yeah, there you go.
What are your thoughts on that pick?
I mean, bases are, if we're at that 9th inning, bases are loaded, and you need a score. I don't know many other people who are gonna maybe hit a home run than
That's
this
fair.
guy. So I like the B. I was wavering A or B.
That's fair. I
Kinda
considered low A or high B. So yeah, we're
Plus.
the same.
B plus, A
Yep.
minus, maybe.
The best B.
Yeah, best B. Yep. Next up, we have Derek Jeter. So, regarded by many as a amazing, obviously, player who played for the Yankees. Same thing. I mean, with the game on the line, 9th inning, you need a run or you need something like that. He's probably getting you a base hit. I probably would put him. I probably put him in the A. I think if you look at his stats and the stuff and maybe some people think he was a better defensive player, but I think he's getting you that run, even if it's not a home run.
I think Jeter is highly regarded because he's a good person. He had a very consistent career of playing both sides of the ball. I don't know that I'd put him as an A, but I respect that decision.
Okay, that's fair.
Somebody that I would put as an A is this guy who can not only hit but also pitch and do both at a high level, and that's Shohei Ohtani. And I would put him actually, I think, in between Caitlin Clark and Derek Jeter.
You know what? Hold on. I'm moving him to a B. There. I righted my wrong.
I respect that.
I do agree that he would be an A, though, based on his current skill sets.
And I don't think he even pitched last year, but I think he's going to start pitching again this upcoming year. And it's just, this is the kind of dual threat athlete you never see in the pros. I know people are talking a lot about Travis Hunter coming up in the NFL, but I don't think he will be able to do it at the same level that Shohei Ohtani has, which is something we've never seen before.
So this next one, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick Kane, correct?
That's Sidney Crosby with
Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
I was looking at the guy in the Red Wings jersey,
Yep.
the guy in the middle. Okay, so Sidney Crosby. Oh man, game on the line. He's got the puck. The chances of him scoring a goal. I'm even trying to kind of look at these other guys that I have. I feel like he's got to be an A.
He does.
I was going to say, I don't think he would be a B, but I would think he would be an A.
I've got to say, all of these hockey athletes that you've got on here are incredible. But Sid the Kid is up there with the all times. Him and Ovechkin went back and forth being compared the greatest of their generation.
Yep.
Ovechkin's kind of lived a longer career. He's been able to kind of perform at a higher level longer. But Crosby was, he was part of some historic teams and is one of the best hockey players of the generation.
Would you put Ovechkin in the S?
I think I would put Ovechkin as the highest A possible.
Okay. That's fair.
It's hard to say because it's like, are we talking Ovechkin in 2025 or are we talking Ovechkin in 2010?
Yeah. Yep. No, that's fair. And let's say prime.
Okay. I think I'm going to hold still that I would put Ovechkin as the highest A possible. I'd put him above Crosby, but I wouldn't put him as S probably. I don't know. That's controversial.
But do you think he belongs is where he's at, or do you think we should move him?
I think Crosby's in a good spot there.
Okay.
Next is Patrick Kane, and Patrick Kane is one of the greatest American-born hockey players, so it's hard to discredit him. I have a little bit of a bias because
he
was a Blackhawk for most of his career, but I'm going to give him his flowers, and I'm going to put him right behind Sidney Crosby.
Wow.
I think I'll put Sidney a little bit higher, but I think Kane is right there after him. Kane is an amazing goal scorer. Obviously, in his prime, he was one of the best goal scorers in the league, but he was also competing back then with guys like Crosby, and Crosby was right there, usually ahead of him. So both of those guys were like top 3 during their primes, though.
I might need your help with this next one. I'll be honest.
Yep. So that's Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Um,
I just don't know where to rank him. I'll be like, is he an A or not?
no, he's an S.
Really?
His nickname is McJesus, if that tells you anything.
He's an S
I would put him
with
as
the
an
game
S.
on the line?
I think he is the best player in the entire league and has been for the last 5 years, and
Okay.
it's not even close. The stuff he
Okay.
can do is actually insane to me, and I don't know why that team has not won a Stanley Cup with him. They were in the Stanley Cup finals last year, but they lost in the finals. But he is the best player in a long time, and when you watch him play, it's hard to believe that he's just not a champion every single year.
Wow. Okay. I wouldn't. I mean, again, didn't have all the context, so appreciate the tag team.
Mm-hmm.
Ronaldo. Okay, so we're getting into ones where I think you and I are not as qualified for these, but I know these next two, Ronaldo and Messi, are heralded by a lot to be, two of the greatest soccer football players of all time. Oh man,
It's tough.
I feel like I'm gonna put Ronaldo at a higher A, so in front of Caitlin Clark, because he's like just missing S in
Okay,
my book.
you think so?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I'll just leave it at that. I think that's fair.
Would you put him in S?
I would have put him as probably the lowest S and probably put Messi as the highest A. That would probably be my pick, but I'm okay with this.
We can do that. That's fair, because I'm not as fluent in this, and I'll probably get shit on for.
Just some quick all-time stats here. Ronaldo has 929 goals in his career. To Messi's 855, but Messi has more assists, so you can argue whatever you want to argue. But one of the crazy stats is when you think about minutes played. This is a stat I just pulled up. I didn't know this ahead of time. Minutes played. Messi has 104 minutes per goal. So like for every 104 minutes he plays, he scores. And Ronaldo is 112 minutes per goal. So Messi scores more per minute, but Ronaldo has had more goals in his career.
Okay.
I would still, if
I
I had to
like where they're at then, right?
Yeah, if I had to build a team, I would want Ronaldo personally, but I don't think you could go wrong with either of these guys, and they've been compared for their whole careers because they're that close to each other.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the stats help, so thank you for pulling those up.
There's literally a website called Messi versus Ronaldo. It's that big of it. It's that hotly debated about who's better. So
wow, that's awesome. All right, you got the next one, or do you want me to do the next one because it's easy?
Go ahead and do the next one.
All right. I mean, obviously, we got to put him up here. I mean,
put him after Jordan. Come on.
I was gonna say,
don't joke around here.
Yeah. In golf, the golf world, clearly he's. I mean, it's hard to compare golf to hockey, but
yep. This one, I love the guy, but he lets me down every week. Put Tom Kim as our C. He's got to be our C. It just makes sense. When I looked at the list, I was like, Tom Kim is the C.
Yeah.
And then
he's got potential. He's got potential.
Yeah. Let's debate this. Where do you think Serena goes? It's obviously S. There's no debating that, right?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of tennis, yes. For women's tennis,
I put her right after Tiger Woods personally. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I just don't know enough about. I mean,
McDavid. McDavid is still a younger player, so
that's what I was gonna say. Like maybe he is S in terms of like Wimbledon or whatever, like match on the line. I feel like Serena. Yeah, I mean, definitely. She's gonna win the match with the game on the line.
I hate this debate, but let's just go back to the common debate: championships, right? I mean, Serena wins championships, McDavid hasn't.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
well,
I hate to say that, but
I mean,
it's true.
No, I agree with that. I mean, if you look at the stats for her, and we probably could have put Venus in here too to kind of compare and contrast, but I don't know. What do you think? I feel like this looks pretty good.
I don't think I have any changes. I like it how it is.
I mean, do you think we're going to get flack for putting Jeter and Big Papi as B and a younger player as A who hasn't proven themselves as much yet?
We might. It's hard to say, but no one's done what Shohei Ohtani's done because he can pitch and hit in the same game. but he also, if he doesn't even hit when he pitches, he can hit every other game. So you get so much utility out of him, and it's not a gimmick because he's one of the best at his position at both positions, which is why I don't think Travis Hunter will be.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll be sure to save this. We'll post the link to it. So be curious to hear what people's thoughts are. Do the rankings, send us what you think, or, we'll probably clip a screenshot. Tell us what you think. Do you agree with the rankings, or do you think we messed up, and where? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing from other people about this one.
Hell yeah. Well, that was our special segment, Tiers. So maybe we'll have to revisit that one, because I feel like those are always fun to do. We'll have to kind of come up with some creative ones too.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right, let's hop into community callouts. Let's shout out some people that have interacted with us over the last couple of weeks here. We got on Instagram, we got some new followers. Cheese and Bear Pod, appreciate the follow on multiple platforms and some of the messaging back and forth. Great content. So we'll definitely be talking a little bit more moving forward. Got Brennan, who I believe is the same person, just a personal account.
Yep.
Maybe. JJ Seeley, that's a name I haven't seen in a long time. I love seeing that. We got Rye Bread, my sister-in-law. On YouTube, we had some comments from Tim. We had some from Ice. One from someone called I Miss My Ex. I hope you move on soon. And we've got some new subs on YouTube. So thank you, Samir, Rams fan, Chiefs SOM, or Chiefs OM, whatever, Chief SOM. Thank you guys for those subs. That's really what we're looking for. As we mentioned earlier, we're trying to grow the subscription count on YouTube.
Hold on, wait, before you move forward. I want to give a special shout out to you, because I'm almost positive that Rams fan is the bartender at the hotel in Nashville that you convinced to subscribe while getting a drink.
Hell yeah. That guy was awesome. He's a really cool dude.
Yeah. So shout outs to that guy and to you for convincing him to subscribe.
Hey, you never know. We're shameless plugs. And then on TikTok, we had a lot. We had Falix Wolf, who we love. We had One World, Aaron Giles, J-Lo, D's Nuts, Dylan, and Daniel. Thank you all for those follows. Again, please interact with our socials. We love having conversations throughout the week and not just ending them with the podcast here.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We appreciate you so much, and appreciate the follows, the comments, and everything that you do for us. All right, we're moving into single barrel picks. So this is where we do our spin and we give you a couple picks from various sports for the week. So I think we're going to start out with an NHL game. And I think I don't know if you've been letting me pick first, but I'm going to have you pick first for this round.
Okay. So go ahead and you can tee it up and I'll choose.
All right, so the first one we have is NHL. So on Saturday, we have the Maple Leafs, which are minus 1.5 puck line, versus the Blue Jackets.
Yep, I'm going to go with the Blue Jackets on this, and it's primarily just because of the spread here. I could definitely see the Leafs winning, but maybe not by 2. So I'm going to go with the Jackets.
All right, I'm going to go with the Maple Leafs, just because. I think they're ranked number 1 or whatever in their division, so that's why I picked them. We're going to do the final 4. So we don't have to pick based on our bracket, because obviously our brackets are wrong.
Yeah.
But we're going to do thank you for catching that. Duke minus 4.5 versus Houston. Who do you have?
I hate to say it, but I got Duke.
All right. I picked Houston to win the whole thing. I'm going to go with Houston, simply because I think Duke won't cover the spread.
Okay.
So I think Duke will win, but I think it'll come down to like 3 points or something, hopefully.
Okay.
And then next we have Auburn versus Florida, who is minus 2.5.
I got to ride Florida here. I've got them winning the whole thing, and I'm not going to back off of that now.
I'm also going to go with Florida. I think they look really good, and they have a 7-9 guy. NBA Saturday, we have Thunder versus Rockets. We don't have the odds, unfortunately. It's too far out, but who do you have on that? It's a matchup of 1 versus 2, I believe, in the Western Conference.
I'm going to go Thunder on that one.
I'm going to go Rockets.
Okay.
I think Thunder are killing it, but I think the Rockets might pull this one away. And then lastly, we're not doing a bet of the week this week, so we're just kind of do a straight card here. But we have a UFC featherweight bout, which the main card is Josh Emmett, who is plus 220, versus Lerone Murphy, minus 270.
I'm going to go with the dog this week. Give me Emmett. Um, Again, a fairly close UFC match by the odds. Not as close as some that we've had, but it's still really close compared to most fights. And I'm going to take the dog. I'm going to go with Emmett.
I will go with the favorite Murphy.
Okay, that's the single barrel picks. If you guys disagree, let us know what you got. We want you guys to tell us your picks as well.
Sweet. So we have our final segment, which is the 2-minute warning. Basically, we just put a 2-minute timer on the wall here. We're going to go through some fun kind of this or that questions one by one. So let me put us in the right view here for this. How about I'll start with the questions first. I'll ask you the first one.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
All right. Which one would you rather have? MJ never retires in 94 or LeBron skips the NBA and plays college ball?
It would certainly help to settle that debate a little bit, but I think MJ never retires in 94. We don't need that gap. Just keep playing. What would you rather have? The Patriots finished 19-0 back in 2007, or the Seahawks run the ball in Super Bowl, what is this, 49, I think?
The Seahawks run the ball. Give it to Marshawn on the goal line, baby.
Come on, the man's name is Beast Mode. Feed him.
Damian Lillard from the NBA spends his career on the Spurs, or Klay Thompson leads his own team versus being on the Warriors.
I'd love to see Klay have his moment in the spotlight because I feel like he was always secondary to Steph, but I think Klay was the man because he played a great defensive game and was nearly as good at shooting as Steph Curry was.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, what would you rather have? Tiger Woods stays injury and scandal free, or Serena wins the calendar slam?
Oh, you know what I'm going to pick. Tiger Woods staying injury and scandal free. The man probably would have surpassed 100 wins by now.
Well, true.
Bo Jackson stays healthy, or Barry Sanders plays 3 more seasons?
Easy. Barry Sanders is the greatest running back of all time. We needed 3 more years. Come on. Can you imagine?
Yeah, maybe the Lions would have won something.
All right, let's see. If we had the NIL in the 90s, would you rather that Reggie Bush got paid or Tim Tebow became a millionaire?
Well, maybe that one's a typo. It might have been early 2000s, I guess. But, I feel like Reggie Bush. He was crazy, and obviously there was a scandal with him in the Heisman, so I'd pick him.
I think that's fair. All right, one more question.
Last one. UMBC never beats Virginia. That was the 16 versus the 1. Or Gonzaga wins the title in 2021.
I'm going to go with Zaga winning the title in 21 because it was actually amazing to see a 16 seed beat a 1, and I like to see that. I wish we had more of that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That was, I remember, I think I was actually in Nashville when that happened at the meeting we were just at, but in that year that happened, and I just remember being like, there's no way a 16 beat a 1.
It was pretty amazing.
So we are to the last call. And just like at the bar when they kick you out and they tell you it's time to go, it's time for us to tell you that it's time to go. So, Scott, what do you got for the last call?
Well, we're saying goodbye for now, but this is not goodbye for all week because you can catch us on all of our socials. And like I said multiple times throughout the show, we want to hang out and chat there. So please drop those follows if you check us out, if you like our content. If you don't like our content, let us know what you don't like about it, and maybe we can make some changes. But either way, let's just continue the conversation, and we'll keep sipping on some good old bourbon.
Hell yeah. And I just want to say, if you made it this far and you've gone through the entire episode, thank you so much. And cheers to you. Cheers for continuing with us. And looking forward to a Masters special episode next week where we deep dive into golf and the greatest golf event of the year with a guy who is going to the Masters. I'm really looking forward to that. So hopefully golf fans and maybe not golf fans, we can convince you to be golf fans after that.
Hell yeah. Cheers to you all.